How's it going, everybody? This video is going to go through the simple interest part of the investing money unit. It's the very first lesson. Just to talk a little bit about the unit in general. So the first part of the unit is going to focus on simple interest and compound interest. The second part of the unit is going to focus on the actual investing part and doing calculations and how do we use a financial calculator. So for simple interest, it is very simple. It is one calculation. You just need a calculator to be able to do it. It's nothing too crazy. But before we get into it, we're just going to talk about what interest actually is. So there's good interest and there's bad interest. So good interest is when you are investing money. It's money that is like extra money that is paid out to you for keeping it in the bank or for keeping it in like whatever kind of investment you might have. But when you borrow money, then you're not just borrowing, you're not just taking a loan from the bank, but it is a fee, an extra fee that you're being charged for borrowing the money. So borrowing money, that is bad interest. But when you are investing money, it's good interest. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword there. So like I said, this lesson, we're going to focus on simple interest. And the formula for it is right here. The interest amount, so however much the interest is, that's equal to P times R times T. P is your principal, your starting amount. So your starting amount. R is your interest rate, and you should always change it to a decimal. So the way that we do that, just as a reminder, divide your decimal by 100 to change it, divide your percentage by 100 to change it to a decimal. And then T is your time, which is always going to be measured in years. Now on the right side here, we have what's called a formula triangle. So what this can be useful for is if you cover up the letter of whatever it is that you are trying to solve for, the remaining letters they're going to be your formula. So for example, if I'm trying to solve for the interest amount, if I cover up the I have P times R times T. If I'm solving for the number of years, I cover up the T and I have I divided by P times R. And when you do that calculation, if you're doing it all in one shot, make sure that you put that number in brackets. Same thing if I'm trying to solve for the principal amount, I have I divided by R times T. There's one more calculation here, which is so this formula only tells us the interest amount. But if we want to find out how much money we have in total in the future, we can use this formula here, which says that the future value is equal to P, which is my starting amount, my principal amount, plus PRT, which is just my interest amount. So we can also rewrite this as P plus I, however you want to think about it. There's also a note here on the side, which is going to be kind of important for the practice questions, which says that simple interest pays a percentage of the principal. So changing the number of times the interest is paid out is not going to change the future value. So if in a question it says something like interest is semi-annually or monthly or whatever it might be, it does not affect how you use the formula in the question. Which doesn't really matter for this, but there is going to be a distinction when we talk about compound interest in the next lesson. So we're going to take a look at 4 examples here. The first one says you deposit $5,000 into a bank account for 3 years, collecting simple interest at 7%. And I just want to note here, this example does say simple interest. So in the question, it's not going to say use the simple interest formula or use the compound interest formula. There's going to be keywords in the question that tell you which formula to use. So in this case, it does say simple interest in the question itself. So part A says, how much interest would you earn? So we're calculating the interest amount. So I is equal to PRT. P is my starting amount, which is $5,000. R, my interest rate is 7%. When we divide that by 100, it's 0.07. And then T, my number of years, is 3. So we're going to do 5,000 times 0.07 times 3. and we get a final amount of $1,050. So just a quick note here, because we are talking about money, make sure you include your dollar sign in your answer. If you don't do that on a provincial exam, even if you miss it one time, you're going to lose half a mark. So try to get into those good habits of putting dollar signs. Also, if your answer has cents, make sure that you round your cents to 2 decimal places. Don't leave extra numbers after the decimal point because it's not correct. We don't have a money system that has 3, 4, 5 decimal places. But we'll get into that. We'll talk about that when we come across an example. Part B says, how much money will you have at the end of 3 years? So we're looking for the future value, and that is P plus I. P is 5,000. I, we just calculated, is 1,050. So the answer is $6,050. We have more examples on the next page. So example number 2 says, you invest $7,000 in principal into a growth fund. You earn 8% simple interest paid annually for 3 years. How much interest do you earn per year? So we have I equals PRT. Again, that's our formula. My P number is 7,000. My R number is 8%, which is 0.08 as a decimal, and then times 3. So when we do this calculation, I'm actually going to write the answer underneath here. So 7,000 times 0.08 times 3 is 1,680. But the question isn't asking how much interest did you earn in total. It says how much did you earn per year. So this amount is over 3 years. So we're going to divide that by 3. And that is $560 per year. Now, there is a shorter way that we could find this answer because we only want to find how much interest there is in 1 year, and simple interest is a constant payment of interest that is made year after year after year. So if we just did P times R times 1, because we only want to know how much it is for 1 year, we could just do 7,000 times 0.08, and then you can times it by 1, but it's not going to change your answer. And this also gives us 560. So depending on how you choose to approach it, there's a couple of different ways that you can get the answer. Example number 3 says, Nicole deposited $3,000 into a savings account, simple interest, 7% per year. Calculate the number of days the money was in the account if it earned $240 in interest. So now this is a variation on the previous question because now it's giving us the interest amount and we're calculating the number of days. So we're calculating the time that it took. So going back to my formula triangle here, if I'm looking for time, my formula is I divided by P times R. So I divided by P times R. And again, because I have multiple things in my denominator, if you're the kind of person that does just your whole calculation in one big step, put brackets around your denominator, otherwise your calculator will not calculate it properly. So this is 240 divided by bracket 3,000 times 0.07 because my interest rate is 7%. So 240 divided by 3,000 times 0.07 gives me 1.14. But keep in mind, when we do the calculation in time, this is years. The question is asking us how many days. So there are 365 days in a year. We have to take our answer and multiply it by 365. And we get a total of 417.14, which you can round because even though interest is, it's like it's not calculated continuously, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's calculated like day by day by day or year by year by year. So let's just round it off to 417 days. There is one final formula that we're going to talk about here, which is the rate of return. So the rate of return is a percentage which tells you the percent gain or loss of an investment over a certain time period. And we have this formula here. It is the interest that you earned divided by the amount that you invested times 100. So in this case, it is I, my interest earned, divided by P, how much I put in the first place, times 100. So in example number 4, it says Mary decided to invest by giving a small loan of $5,000 to her grandson, John. At the end of 3 years, he owed her $675 in simple interest. What interest rate did Mary give him for the loan? I find it very interesting that a grandmother is charging her grandson interest on a loan. I guess that's something that some families do, but I don't know. I've never had to experience it. So we're calculating the interest rate. So we're calculating R. And again, if we use our formula triangle, it is the formula is I divided by P times T. So my interest earned is $675 divided by 5,000 times 3 years. Again, don't forget your brackets if you're doing it all in one step. So 675 divided by 5,000 times 3 is 0.045. But we're not interested in the decimal answer. I'm more interested in the percentage answer. So I'm going to multiply that by 100, and it is 4.5%. Now there is a part B to this question, and in the book that I'm using here, the part B is written at the top of the next page, but I'm going to use the space on the other page to calculate it. So this is my interest rate, but for part B, when we're talking about the rate of return, then we're going to use this formula here. So I divided by P and then multiplied by 100. So this is 675 divided by 5,000, and then we're going to multiply that by 100 to change it into a percentage, which is also why we multiplied by 100 up here at the top. So 675 divided by 5,000 times 100 is 13.5%. All right, so try not to get it confused when we're talking about the interest rate in a loan versus the rate of return. So even though both formulas, they might look kind of similar, they are both percentages at the end of the day, but they do tell us two different pieces of information.